Hey there. Today we're taking a deep dive into something that seems kinda sci-fi, using AI to help protect the planet. And the coolest part, our case study is the Isle of Man, a little island with some big conservation ideas.
Now, that's what makes this so interesting, right? You don't usually think tiny island when you think global conservation leader.
Exactly. I mean, when you picture the Isle of Man, you probably weren't picturing cutting-edge environmental action, were you?
Probably not the first thing that springs to mind.
But that's why we're here. You sent in this awesome document from Arca3 Ltd. And turns out the Isle of Man is kind of a hidden gem. It's a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve, which sounds super official. But basically, it means they've got this amazing mix of land and water ecosystems all packed onto this island.
It really is a unique place geographically.
Yeah, like a dramatic coastlines, rolling hills. They even have beaches where seals hang out. And get this, because it's right in the middle of a major bird migration route, they have tons of different bird species stopping by throughout the year.
It's like a little biodiversity hotspot.
Right, like a pit stop for all these amazing creatures.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Even a place that sounds as idyllic as the Isle of Man, well, it faces the same environmental challenges as everywhere else.
Unfortunately, that's the reality. Climate change, habitat loss, pollution, it's a familiar story.
A story we see repeated again and again, and that's where this whole AI thing comes in. Because while they're already doing great conservation work on the Isle of Man, this document explores how artificial intelligence could really take those efforts to the next level.
Okay, so I have to admit, when I first heard AI and conservation, my mind immediately went to robots planting trees or something. But this document really opened my eyes to how much broader AI actually is.
Right. It's so much more than just robots.
And a lot of it seems to come down to data, which, let's be honest, there's no shortage of these days.
Exactly. We're practically drowning in data, and that's where AI can really shine.
So instead of having poor scientists stuck analyzing spreadsheets for years,
Which, let's face it, isn't the most exciting work.
AI can swoop in and make sense of all that data way faster and more accurately than a human ever could.
And that means we can do things like track animals, monitor deforestation, even catch illegal fishing in action,
All things that would take humans ages to do.
and with much less accuracy, probably.
Okay, so you've got my attention, but do you have any real-world examples of this actually working?
Oh, absolutely. One of the coolest examples I came across is this group called Rainforest Connection.
Rainforest Connection. That sounds like something out of a superhero movie.
Right, but they're basically the acoustic guardians of the rainforest. They've put these AI-powered listening devices in rainforests. They can actually tell the difference between the sound of a chainsaw and, birds singing or whatever.
So if someone tries to sneak in and chop down a tree legally.
Busted. The AI alerts the authorities, and they can catch them red-handed.
Or I guess red chainsawed.
Exactly. And it's not just about catching the bad guys, although that's pretty cool, but it's about understanding the bigger picture. Take Microsoft's AI for Earth program, for instance.
Another superhero name.
They're using AI to analyze pictures from camera traps, those cameras that automatically snap a photo when something walks by.
Yeah.
This helps them track endangered species, which is a huge challenge.
Especially if you're trying to track something like a snow leopard in the Himalayas.
Oh, definitely. Good luck finding those guys without some serious help.
So AI swoops in, analyzes thousands of images, and
I
suddenly,
know you've got a much clearer picture of where these elusive creatures are and how to protect them.
that's incredible. So we've established that AI can do amazing things for the planet as a whole, but what about our little island friend? Where does the Isle of Man fit into all of this?
Well, and that's what I think is so cool about this document. It doesn't just stop at like, hey, AI's neat, let's use it. They actually sat down and thought about how to make this work specifically for the Isle of Man.
Oh, so they're not just trying to shoehorn AI in just because it's trendy.
No, not at all. And they've identified these three main areas where AI could really, shake things up in the best way possible.
Yeah. Okay, so like their AI hit list, what's first?
So, number one, we've got wildlife monitoring and habitat analysis. And remember all those cool creatures we were talking about, the basking sharks, the seals, the birds.
Hard to forget about those guys, especially the basking sharks.
Right. So imagine if we could track their movements, in real time.
No more relying on like lucky sightings or something.
Exactly. We could figure out their critical habitats, see how those habitats are being affected by pollution, rising sea levels, all of that.
That's amazing. But can AI actually do that? It's not just like sticking a Fitbit on a shark, right?
Well, it's not that simple, no, but it's the same basic idea. You use sensors, data analysis, all powered by AI to get those insights.
Okay, so that's wildlife. What's next on their AI to-do list?
Number two, climate change impact assessment. I mean, look, we all know climate change is happening, but AI can help us go beyond just the scary headlines. You know,
So less doom and gloom, more like actionable insights.
exactly. It can help us understand, okay, what does climate change actually mean for a place like the Isle of Man?
Right, because it's not just about the planet as a whole, it's about how those changes will affect different places in different ways.
Precisely. Like, how will rising sea levels impact those bird nesting sites we were talking about? What will warmer waters do to the fish populations those seals rely on? AI can help us answer these questions with way more accuracy than we've ever had before.
Okay, so that's two: wildlife tracking, climate change. What's the final piece of the puzzle?
Well, the last area the document really focuses on is pollution tracking.
Makes sense. Got to keep those waters clean for all those amazing creatures.
Exactly. And they specifically mentioned agricultural runoff as being a major issue for the Isle of Man.
Which honestly feels like something a lot of coastal communities can probably relate to.
Oh, definitely. It's a huge issue, but now imagine if we could pinpoint exactly where that pollution is coming from.
Wait, like from a specific farm? Or even like a type of fertilizer?
That's the idea. AI can analyze water samples, track pollution plumes back to their source.
Wow. And then I'm guessing once you know where it's coming from, you can actually do something about it, right?
Exactly. Targeted solutions for a healthier environment. That's the power of this technology.
Okay, this is all super impressive, but I have to ask, how are they actually planning to pull all of this off? Like, is the Isle of Man about to be overrun by robots?
That would be a sight to see, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
No, they're not sending in the robot army just yet. The real key here is integration.
Integration.
Yeah, like
Right.
they already have protected areas set up. They're already collecting environmental data. This isn't about starting from scratch. It's about making what they have even better.
Oh, so it's kind of like they've already got a good foundation.
Yeah, and AI is like this awesome new tool they can add to their toolbox to build on what they've already started.
Okay, I like that analogy. But it's still a pretty big undertaking, right? They're talking about tracking everything from sharks to pollution plumes.
Right, and that's why they also talk about the importance of collaboration.
So it's not just the Isle of Man going it alone.
Definitely not. They're planning to bring together local experts who really know the island inside and out.
Okay, so you've got the people who know the local challenges.
Right, and then you bring in the people who know the how, the global leaders in AI technology.
So it's like assembling this dream team of environmental and tech experts.
Exactly. And that's how you tackle a challenge this big.
So we've got the local knowledge, we've got the tech geniuses on speed dial. What about the actual technology itself? Because whenever I hear about these big data projects, my eyes start to glaze over a bit.
Oh yeah, the tech specs can definitely get a little dense. But the main takeaway here is that they need the right tools to gather the right data.
Okay, makes sense. You can't track a shark with a weather balloon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to monitor those basking sharks, you need sensors that can handle being underwater, withstand rough seas, all of that.
So rugged tech for a rugged environment.
Exactly. And then you need somewhere to store and analyze all that data, which is where those big data centers come in.
Okay, so they're thinking about all the practicalities here.
Yeah, it's not just about having the tech hour. It's about using it in a way that actually benefits everyone, both the environment and the people of the Isle of Man.
Right, because technology for technology's sake isn't always the answer.
Exactly. And that brings us to the last piece of their plan, actually making all of this happen.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here talking about how AI could be this secret weapon for conservation on the Isle of Man.
And we've gone over, tracking wildlife, assessing climate change, all of that.
Right, and the how, using sensors, data analysis, building this awesome team of experts. But this document doesn't just leave us hanging with a bunch of cool ideas. It actually lays out a roadmap for putting this into action.
Which is really important, right? Because you can have the best ideas in the world, but if you don't know how to make them happen.
They're just ideas.
Exactly. And they seem to be very aware of that.
Yeah, they seem to have really thought this through.
Yeah, it's a solid plan. And they're not talking about like some far off future either.
Oh, so this isn't like a someday plan.
No, they're ready to get started now, which is exciting.
I like their style. So what's step one? How do you even begin to tackle something this ambitious?
Well, they start with the basics, feasibility studies.
Feasibility studies, so like making sure this whole thing is actually doable.
Exactly. Before you invest a bunch of time and money in something, you want to make sure it's actually going to work.
Right, because what works in a lab in Silicon Valley might not work on a windswept island in the Irish Sea.
Exactly. Different environments, different challenges.
Makes sense.
So these feasibility studies, they're basically about figuring out, okay, which AI technologies are going to be the best fit for the Isle of Man.
So it's like before you go on a road trip, you want to make sure you have the right vehicle.
Exactly. You wouldn't take a sports car off-roading.
Definitely not. So feasibility studies, checking the map, making sure they're headed in the right direction. What comes next?
Pilot projects.
So instead of going all in on something brand new, they're going to like dip their toes in the water first.
Exactly. Test the waters. See what works, what doesn't.
And I'm guessing those smaller projects will also give them a chance to kind of work out the kinks before they scale things up.
Absolutely. They can try out different AI solutions, maybe focus on a specific issue, like monitoring a certain bird population, and see how it goes.
Right, because even with the best planning, you're always going to encounter some unexpected bumps in the road.
Oh, definitely. And you can learn so much from those early mistakes.
So feasibility studies, pilot projects, is there anything else they emphasized in terms of like actually making this happen?
Well, they also stress the importance of monitoring and evaluation.
Okay, so that's like once they've got these AI systems up and running, they need to make sure they're actually doing what they're supposed to do.
Exactly. Are they actually helping to protect the environment? Are they giving us the insights we need?
So it's not just a set it and forget it kind of thing.
Definitely not.
Mhm.
It's an ongoing process, constantly checking in, making sure things are on track.
And if they're not, well, that's where that whole adaptability thing comes in, right?
Exactly. You adjust course, you try something different.
Mm.
You don't just keep going down the wrong road.
That makes a lot of sense, especially when you're talking about something as complex as the environment.
Absolutely. It's a constant learning process.
And speaking of learning, I think one of the things that really stood out to me about this document is that they're not just focused on the technology itself.
Right. They're also thinking about the human side of things.
Exactly. Because you can have all the fancy AI in the world, but if you're not bringing people along with you,
It's not going to work.
exactly.
Yeah.
So how are they planning to make sure everyone's on board with this whole AI for conservation thing?
Well, they talked a lot about communication and outreach, which is key.
So like explaining to people what they're doing and why it matters.
Exactly. And it's not just about technical jargon. It's about making it relatable, making it exciting.
Right, because people are more likely to support something if they understand it.
Exactly. And they mentioned things like community meetings, interactive websites, you know, really making an effort to get everyone involved.
That's fantastic because it really is a community effort, right?
Absolutely. Protecting the environment is something we all have a stake in.
I couldn't agree more. Well, this has been an amazing deep dive.
It really has.
Honestly, when I first saw the title AI and the Isle of Man, I wasn't sure what to expect.
I can imagine.
But this has just been fascinating, and it's really opened my eyes to the possibilities of using technology for good.
It's really incredible what AI can do when you put it in the right hands.
Right, and it's not just about the Isle of Man either, is it? This could be a model for other communities, other islands, even other countries.
Absolutely. It's about showing what's possible and inspiring others to follow suit.
And that's a future I can definitely get behind, a future where technology helps us protect the planet, not harm it.
A future where we're all working together to create a healthier, more sustainable world.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And on that note, we'll wrap things up for today. But before we go, we want to hear from you. What do you think about the potential of AI for conservation? Head over to our website, leave a comment, send us a message. We love hearing from you. And until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and most importantly, keep diving deep.